Hey there, Bear Buddies. Welcome to a very special third edition of Furberries Fables. Tonight I am absolutely honored to bring you two stories from one of my very favorite horror narrators on YouTube, We Shouldn't Be Here, who has very generously agreed to donate his time and collaborate with me on this video. Without further ado, please take it away, We Shouldn't Be Here, and thanks again for being here.
I'm reaching out through story because I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't tell if what I'm seeing is real or if my mind has seen one too many horror movies. In order for these events to make sense, I'll need to go into some background on me and my family. I'm 30 years old, a white male living in Texas. I live with my mom currently. And I know what you might be thinking. 30 years old and living with your mom? Well, I didn't always live with her. It wasn't until recently that I moved in with her. For the last 6 years, I was living with my girlfriend, about 20 miles from where I'm currently residing. Our relationship started off typical, the classic feeling of butterflies having a dance party in my stomach whenever she would touch my hand. She could give me this look with the slightest smile, and it made everything around me disappear. I was in La La Land heaven with her, and she felt the same about me. Her name was Jenna. She was about 5 months younger than me. Not every relationship stays perfect, though. The honeymoon phase wears off after a while. Anyone who tells you that the relationship is perfect is lying to your face. And our relationship was no different. We started having arguments here and there, usually nothing too big, just your average little spats, and the occasional blow-up fight, which usually left me with grabbing my keys and going for a drive to cool down. But there was no denying that the love was there, running through our hearts always. Now to speed up to the timeline of this story. Trust me when I tell you that this next part of the story is going to make you not like me very much, and I am well aware of that. About 7 months ago, I started a new job at an animating company. I didn't mention this, but I've always been an artist my whole life, since as long as I can remember. I've been somebody who will always draw on any blank surface I see. But I was switching jobs, and I landed myself this new animation job, and I worked alongside of 2 other animators. One of the 2 people was a man named Rick. He was in his late 40s, and the other was a girl named Sarah. She was a year older than me. I feel like what I'm about to tell you, you can already see coming from what I prefaced earlier. One night I had to stay late because I had a deadline on this project, and it had to get finished. I was getting overwhelmed with the amount of work that I had to do. Sarah had already finished up her portion of the project. She was very talented with animation, and she had been doing it for years, so she offered to stay late with me and help split up some of the workload. I was very grateful to her. I made a call to Jenna and told her the situation. She understood, and she was very supportive of the situation. The only thing I didn't mention was that Sarah was also going to be there with me. Just the 2 of us, all alone, nobody around. I guess you could say that I had a slight attraction to Sarah, and by slight, I mean a lot. The time is now around 8-ish in the evening, and we are making good progress on this project. To be honest, we made great progress. We ended up finishing the project shortly after that, around 8:30 p.m. It was such a load off of my back finally, and I finally could take a minute to sit back and take a breath of relief. I looked at Sarah and I told her how much her help meant to me. She looked back at me, smiled, and in return, told me that I meant a lot to her. We sat there silently smiling at each other for a few seconds, cheeks turning red. And then that's when I made the biggest mistake of my life. I made a move. I kissed her. Sarah returned the kiss and told me that she had been wanting me to do that for the longest time. But in that very moment, while looking at Sarah, her face blurred out, and all I could see was my beautiful girlfriend Jenna. The guilt hit me like a professional boxer laying down a haymaker on my face. I instantly felt sick and told Sarah that I was sorry for what I did and that I had to get back to Jenna. She got upset and picked up her stuff and left the studio. Understandable. I left and I got in my car. I sat in my seat for a minute or 2 in a daze of guilt. I looked into my mirror at myself in disgust. I'm not a bad guy. I've never cheated before, on anyone. I grasped my steering wheel and I let out a loud scream from deep inside. I knew I had to go home and tell Jenna what I did. I got home and had to build up the courage to go inside and fess up to being a cheating pig to the woman who gave me her full trust and support. I put my key into the front door lock and turned it to the left. Hearing the sound of that door unlocking scared me. I opened the door and there she was, Jenna, sleeping on the couch, looking more beautiful than ever. She waited up on the couch for me, and there I was earlier, lip-locking with my cute coworker, not even thinking twice about the faithful and committed relationship that was waiting for me at home. I sat down next to Jenna on the couch. The feeling of me sitting down woke her up. She looked over at me with her half-awake eyes. She said, "Hey babe, did you get your project done? I tried to stay awake to see you, but I fell asleep." I looked back and I softly said, "Yeah, I got it done." Jenna looked at me and asked what was wrong. She could tell that I wasn't all there. My eyes welded up with tears. I told her. I admitted that within the last hour, I cheated on our 6 years of love. I'm sure from this point you can imagine what happened. We spent the next hour and a half going at it. Well, it was more so me apologizing over, and her crying and calling me every ugly cheater name in the book. At the end of the fight, she stood up. I asked what she was doing. She went to the closet, grabbed a coat, and then grabbed the car keys. She said she needed to get out of this situation and needed time to think. She left the house around 11 p.m. I was so upset at myself. I was halfway crying, halfway angry, and 100% regretful. I ended up closing my eyes and falling asleep on the couch. I figured when Jenna got home that she wouldn't be very happy if she found me sleeping in our bed, so the couch it was. Around 4 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of knocks on my door. It confused me, because who would be knocking at 4 a.m.? I got up and I walked to our room to go check on Jenna, and she wasn't in bed. Where was she? I called out her name and didn't hear a response. I went to the door where the knocking was still happening. I opened the door, still being in the same clothes from the night before. I opened the door to the presence of 2 police officers. They looked at me and asked me, "Does a Jenna Scott live here?" I said, "Yeah, but she's not here right now. Why?" They asked to come inside. They had me sit down. They informed me that Jenna was involved in a car accident, and she had passed away. My world came to a stop. I can't begin to tell you what it feels like to receive news of that nature. They apologized and went on their way after giving me phone numbers and cards. I'm not going to get into the deep emotions I had over the next few days. The only thing that I'll mention is that I felt 100% inside of me that her death was caused by me. The reason being that I cheated on her. I told her, and she left the house that night because of the hurt that I put her through. The last moments of Jenna's short life were spent in pure sadness and hurt because of me. Fast forward to now. The reason why I'm reaching out to anybody who will listen and might be able to help me. Again, I don't know if I'm losing my mind or if what's been happening lately is actually real. A few weeks after Jenna passed, I moved back in with my mom because I couldn't live in that house anymore on one income. But the first thing that I can recall is that when I was packing up our place, I packed up Jenna's stuff last. Her things were in boxes in our room on the floor. I had a few of my buddies and my brother over to help me move, and we loaded everything onto the U-Haul before we grabbed Jenna's boxes. But the thing that I cannot explain is that when we went to go into my room to grab her things, all of her boxes were open and her stuff was thrown all over the room, as if a raccoon were throwing garbage everywhere looking for some food. Her clothes covered the floor and her stuff was everywhere in between. I turned to my friends and demanded to know who did this. They all looked at me with confusion. They started looking back and forth between each other, wondering who did it. I was getting boiled with the lack of response from all of them, but they all swore that they never even went into my room. It was unexplainable, but without anyone admitting it, there was nothing I could do except accuse somebody. And I loved all of those people. I would never accuse them without proof, so I let it go. I moved in with my mom and I took the back bedroom. But then more things started happening. The next thing that happened could be explained, but I just don't know how yet. I somewhat started decorating my room to try to feel more at home. I put up some things, and amongst those things were a few pictures of Jenna. I stared at those pictures for a while, with tears making my eyes misty. Then I got up to do whatever, and when I took a few steps out of my room and into the hallway, I heard the sound of a bang. It startled me. I stopped in my tracks and I looked back at the room. I went back in to see what that noise was, and what I saw freaked me out. All the pictures of Jenna were face down. Something slammed down the pictures, like they didn't want it to be seen, or maybe they didn't want me to see them. I don't know. I turned them back up and then walked away again. That night I was in the living room. My mom was already asleep in her room. I was watching TV and dozing on and off. But then I was awoken by whoever on the TV saying the words, "You killed her." It woke me up because those 3 words seemed like they were louder than anything else on the TV. Like as if the volume boosted up only for a second to hear those words, and then instantly went back to regular volume. I sat there confused with a puzzled look. Was that just my mind making me hear things? Or what? It was bothering me, making me feel like I was being watched by everything. I turned off the TV. I went to my room. I turned on a podcast and I laid down, trying to clear my mind. But it seemed like every other word on that podcast was the word death, or kill, or murder. I think maybe I was just feeling immense guilt that night. I turned it off and I took some sleeping pills and somehow managed to fall asleep. But I was violently awakened when I felt the cold sting of a slap on the side of my face that was not covered by my pillow. I immediately sat up, half attentive and half out of it from the sleeping pills. I actually said out loud, "What was that?" as if I was going to hear an audible answer from someone. I looked around my room for my bed, face feeling hot and throbbing like a mini heart beating underneath the skin of my cheek. As I was looking to my right, holding my face, I heard the slam again that I had heard earlier, coming from my left. The picture of Jenna was laying face down on the dresser. My eyes started to widen, and my pupils zoomed in on that picture like a professional photographer's camera lens. And then slam! Another picture of Jenna's slams down. I jumped like a cat that somebody startled from behind. I covered my face and started repeating under my breath, "This is only in your mind. This is only in your mind." And then the final third picture of Jenna flew off of the dresser as if somebody slapped it across the room. I gasp loudly and quickly leave the room and go to the bathroom. I look in the mirror and see that I have a handprint-shaped welt on my cheek. I can't do this anymore. I lock the door behind me and turn on the shower. Maybe these sleeping pills hit me too hard. Maybe I'm having a reaction. A nice hot shower might bring reality back to my mind. Maybe it's worth a shot. I strip down and I step into the hot shower. I'm standing there scared out of my mind and also overwhelmed and almost on the verge of tears. I stay in the shower for what has to be about 20 minutes. I don't even think I washed any part of me. I think I just stood there, one hand on my face and the other hand on the shower wall as support for my quivering body. I finally have my heart rate back to a semi-normal beat, and I turn the shower knob to the right, and the water comes to a stop. I get out of the shower. The room is full of steam. I forgot to turn on the fan. I grab a towel. I go to the sink and I run the cold water. I want to cool down my face before going back into my room. I fill the inside of my hand-shaped bowl with water and splash cold water over my face. I let the drips fall into the sink, and I take a deep breath while looking down. I look up to stare myself in the eyes, and then from behind me, barely visible in all the steam, I see a woman standing behind me. I loudly gasp and I turn around to an empty bathroom. There is no one there. I slow my breathing back down while looking behind me, and then I turn to look back into the mirror, thinking my mind was playing tricks on me. When I turn around, I see on the mirror a handprint mark swiped across the foggy mirror, and written in the condensation was the word Sarah. I ran out of the bathroom, barely wrapped in a towel, and I sprint down the hallway to my room. I threw on whatever clothes I saw first, clean or dirty. I grabbed my car keys and I just started driving. I don't remember where I went and how long I was gone, but I remember not even coming home until the sun was already out the next morning. I'm telling this story now because this was last night, and I don't know whether my mind is playing tricks on me or if Jenna is back. Whether she's a ghost, a spirit, or whatever you want to call it. But if it is Jenna, it's not the Jenna that I knew. So there is something that I need to talk about, and I'm wondering if I should go to the police with this information or if I should stay quiet for my own safety. I need to start this off by saying that I'm a 22-year-old girl. Let's just say that my name is Alex. It's in reality something else, but out of fear for my own life, I will have to call myself by a different identity. Not only will my name be different, but every name of this story will be changed. I have a best friend named Stephanie. Her and I have been friends since sophomore year of high school, so roughly about 7 years. I met her in drama class, and I always admired her passion for theater. I only took that class because I heard it was easy. It wasn't until probably 6 months after meeting in high school that she invited me over to her house to hang out. We get up to her place, and we get out of the car to a super nice mansion-styled house. I'm pretty taken aback, to be honest, because she wasn't dressed from head to toe in designer-named merchandise, like you think somebody with a lot of money would be. I get out and ask what her dad does for a living, and you guessed it, a doctor. Looking back, maybe I should have paid better attention in class, but that's besides the point. We go into her house, and right there in the doorway is her mom. She seems surprised to see me. I guess Stephanie wasn't too good on the communication aspect with her mom. Either way, her mom introduced herself and offered us a snack. And being 16, the perfect choice was, of course, a pepperoni pizza pocket. We get our food and we scurry back to Stephanie's room like two cockroaches trying to find darkness. We were eating and talking about what some people at school were up to today, and we were about to start our homework when I saw a figure walk by. I noticed it out of the corner of my eye. I turned to Steph and I asked her if somebody else was here. She said, "Yeah, it's probably my older brother Steve." I paid no mind to it, and I carried on with my homework prep. I asked Stephanie if she had anything to drink, because that Hot Pocket was not going down smooth. She said to go check the fridge. I remember thinking, this is my first time in your house, and the first time meeting your family. You can't get up, or at the very least go with me? But then again, we were only 16, and didn't quite develop the manners that we should have had. I creep down their hallway, and I walk into the kitchen, trying to be silent, like a top-secret agent in an old spy film. I quickly open the fridge and start looking at what they had to drink. It seemed like they had every flavor of every soda ever made. Freaking rich people. Then out of nowhere, I hear from behind me, "What you looking for?" I jump back from shock. Stephanie's brother Steve was standing there looking at me. I just grabbed the first drink I saw and I shut the fridge. I look at him and I silently hold up the drink. He gives me a smile and sticks his hand out. "Hey, I'm Steve." "Hi, I'm Alex." We introduce ourselves, and everything he said after hello was a blur to me. I can't remember anything he said because I was so distracted with his striking good looks. He appeared to be about 18, and he was in very good shape, with a very perfect white smile. I kind of oogled him and giggled, and then said it was nice to meet him, and said, "I have to head back to the room, or Stephanie will think I got lost." He smirks and says, "I hope to see you around more often." This was 7 years ago. Nothing ever really came out of me and Steve, unless you called mild flirting something, but I just could never bring myself to make a move. I valued my friendship with Stephanie too much to risk anything with her brother. But now, let's talk about the purpose of me telling you all of this. I was over at their house this past week. By now, I'm like the second child to Stephanie's parents, so I just let myself in and I say, "Hey mom, hey dad," to her parents. But this last time that I was there, Stephanie wasn't back from wherever she was yet, so I do what I always do there. I went into Stephanie's room and I turned on the TV. I noticed that Steve wasn't there either. Now, I need to mention something about Steve. Ever since I've known him, he's always kind of stayed to himself in his room with his door locked. No one really ever knew what he was doing in there, and frankly, I don't know if anybody wanted to know. But as I waited, I poked my head out of Steph's room. I noticed that Steve's door was slightly ajar, which it never is. I know this is going to sound bad, but my interest piqued and my curiosity heightened. I walk to his room and I slowly push open the door. It creaks like an old horror movie door would. I started snooping. Yes, snooping around his room. I told you, I wasn't proud of this. I went to his bed and I sat down. Nice little bounce to it. His sheets smelled like lavender. Of course, I had to check underneath his bed for naughty items. To my delight, he didn't have any. But then I noticed his laptop was on his computer desk, along with a mess of papers around it. I take a few steps to it and open it. To my surprise, it had no password on it. It just opened up to the home screen. I'm well aware that what I was doing was a total breach of privacy, but here's when things take a very, very dark turn. I open his internet browser. A window pops up saying, "Internet pages weren't closed down properly. Restore recent pages?" I knew I shouldn't have, but I pressed yes. this website pops up. And it didn't look like any type of website that I'd ever seen. It looked eerie. It looked like what you would imagine a dark and moist alley in New York would look like if it was an internet site. I didn't want to navigate on there in case Steve would later check on his history, so I just read what was in front of me. What I saw next made me sick to my stomach. It was a series of snuff films, ranging from people of all ages, and I mean all ages, unfortunately, all the way to animals. I then realized that I had just stumbled across Steve looking on the deep web. It made me sick that somebody would be looking at something so vile. And why was he looking at it? Was it just out of being curious? Because I know we have all looked at something weird before. It's just part of being human. Or was he looking at it for some sort of pleasure aspect? Then I noticed another tab was open. I once again looked over my shoulder, and then I clicked on the tab once I realized that the coast was clear. This is where I really got concerned. It was some deep website about how to kill people in all different ways, and how to get away with it. Could Steve be planning on killing someone? I know as humans, our minds go to some dark places, and sometimes we assume the worst case scenarios. So I decided to try to brush it off as Steve being weird and curious, and I exited out of his internet and I shut his laptop quickly. But that's when I noticed something else. Something major. I saw a yellow notepad underneath his laptop. I pulled it out, and on the front of it were a list of names. 7 names to be exact. I can't tell you whose names were on it, but I can tell you one of the names that was my name. One of the names already had a single pen line through it. What does that mean? Did I just come across a hit list? And why is my name on it? Does Steve plan on killing me? What's up with the one name that's already crossed out? Did Steve already carry out one of his hits? As I'm looking down on this paper, I hear a car door shut out front. It's Steve. I nearly puked from anxiety, and I scramble to put everything back where I found it. I hurry and run out of his room and start making my way back to Stephanie's room when I get caught with a, "Hey cutie." I stand still in place, like I just saw a ghost. I turn to him and I try to remember everything I learned in acting class. I let out a, "Hey Steve." He asks what I'm doing, and I just let him know I was waiting for Steph, but my mom called and I had to get home. He offers me a ride, and I quickly shout out, "No, I'm fine." Then I scurry past him, and right before I leave, he says, "Hey." I stop and I turn back to him. He says, "I'll see you soon," and then gives me that smile that I once found so charming. I'm home now, and I'm writing this. Do I go to the police? If I do, and they do nothing, will he come after me for revenge? But if I don't, will I be looking over my shoulder for the rest of my life? I don't know what I should do. But if he did kill that guy on his list, I think he got away with it, thanks to whatever advice he found on the deep web.
These dreams started recently. I don't understand them, but it feels so familiar. It has just been a series of glimpses that skip ahead randomly, never enough to figure out what exactly is going on. The dreams are missing so many details. I am now writing things down after I wake up because the dreams are always the same. However, the story continues to grow and develop every time I dream. Maybe this way I can figure out what it all means. January 13th, 2012. I wake up in bed in a room that vaguely resembles a hotel room. I get up and walk past the table near the door. The letters WS are engraved on a leather booklet. The details of my surroundings are blurry, as if my eyes can't seem to fully adjust. I open the door and step outside. There is some commotion in the hallway, which is probably what woke me. In the distance, a plea. "Please just unlock this." Must be some sort of domestic disturbance. A man in a black uniform tells me to return to my quarters. I close the door behind me, but I do not go back to bed, even though it is still dark out. January 24th, 2012. I try to look out the small window in my room. Complete darkness. I strain to see through the darkness. Something must be out there, but the image will not change. January 30th, 2012. There is a knock on my door, and a male voice yells through the door for me to get out now. It is much later now, and there is an inexplicable urgency in the man's voice. I grab my coat and an item I can't see, and I join other people crowding in the hallway. We move towards the staircase hurriedly. I pass a large mirror and instinctively look over, but I can't see my reflection. I can see that I am there, but it's as if the image will not load. Something like when you have something on the tip of your tongue, but you can't quite get to the memory of it. A child falls. I reach for it to help it up, but it's gone. February 15th, 2012. A staircase, people rushing past me, a barred gate that looks like it has been forcefully opened. Someone has dropped their bag. I get to the top of the stairs and make it outside. Freezing cold air hits my face as I recognize the employee that told me to return to my room not too far away. There is fear and regret in his eyes as he steps back. He is gone. February 24th, 2012. I look around trying to understand where I am. It is the deck of a ship, void of its exact details. There are faint sounds, music. Something is missing. I start to feel panic coming up from within me. Something is not right. Something is missing. Scared and confused, I approach the railing to look over the edge. In the darkness, I can see the water. It is much closer than it should be. Something is missing. Someone pushes past me and disappears. I hear something sounding vaguely like shots. I stumble into someone who is crying out for his family. I ask him where they are, but I can't ever seem to hear his answer. There is no more time. I am running out of time. March 3rd, 2012. I see a uniformed man that I recognize. He is shouting at another uniformed man. "They'll be here soon. We're going to be fine." I can't make out the rest of the conversation but a few words. Communication. Morse. SOS. Don't worry. Few hours. March 15th, 2012. As I walk further along the deck, I notice a tilt. That used to be straight, didn't it? It's so cold. Something is missing. I can see my breath, and I have changed directions to walk upwards along the tilt. Someone grabs me and pulls me aside into a notch on the deck. "Why haven't you put this on?" I look down at the item in my hand as the woman takes it and puts it on me. April 10th, 2012. In the exact moment she placed it on me, I saw it, as if it just materialized in that very moment. A life jacket. I stared blankly at it as the situation suddenly became clearer. Helplessness and fear welled up inside me. I woke up crying and sweating. At the same time, I was freezing cold. I did not want to go back to sleep, so I got up early. April 11th, 2012. I looked at the woman who put the life vest on me. She had tears in her eyes and was shivering. I didn't dare ask. I didn't want her to put into words what I was realizing. I didn't want to hear it. Something was missing. April 12th, 2012. The lifeboats, they're not there. Why are there no lifeboats? They were there this afternoon. The lifeboats are missing. I raced to the railing, almost sliding downwards along the suddenly much steeper incline. The darkness over the edge of the boat was pierced by a few glimpses of the light. I can see the boats. The departed boats. Voices. As if someone unmuted everything, suddenly there was deafening voices, screams, and cries. My feet are freezing. I look down and see the water around my ankles. It's so cold. April 13th, 2012. I grabbed the woman who put me in my vest, screaming at her to tell me where the rest of the lifeboats are. She didn't answer. Tears rolled down her face. April 14th, 2012. I have been trying to stay awake, but I am so tired. Every time I drift off, I dream, and every time I dream, the water reaches a little higher up my body. I don't know what will happen when I'm in the water completely. I honestly don't want to know. I hope it'll just be the end, and that the dreams will just stop, but somehow I know that isn't true. I am cold all the time now, and no matter how high I turn up the heat, I can't seem to get warm. The cold is unbearable. I followed a group of people that made a lot of sense when they said we have to go catch the lifeboats, and we started to swim away from the sinking ship. As we tried our best to swim in the freezing ocean, the lights went out on the ship and it all went dark. She's sinking. How is she really sinking? One of the younger men in the group seemed stunned. As we swam into more of the darkness surrounding us, it seemed to get even colder. April 15th, 2012. I don't know how long I can do this anymore. I've been trying to stay awake, but sleep is pulling me in stronger every minute. I can barely keep my eyes open. I just can't fight it anymore. It feels like I am swimming against a current. The good news is that I don't feel that cold anymore. What's worrying me is that my lips are blue, and everything tastes like salt water. I think I will just close my eyes for a little bit.